All right, welcome back. Looks like we're diving into the Indiana Fever's offseason today.
Yeah, seems like they're making some big moves.
Definitely. Based on all the stuff you sent over, articles, social media posts, Fever fans are going crazy, big names, salary cap drama, and a whole lot of talk about a dynasty.
No kidding.
Yeah.
A lot of ambition there.
So let's break it all down and see if the Fever can really pull this off.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I think what's really interesting is how much the Fever's whole mindset seems to have changed. Like, they're not just shooting for the playoffs anymore. They're talking championships, dynasties even. And they're willing to make some huge moves.
Yeah, it all starts with their new head coach, Stephanie White. She's come in with this no more mediocrity attitude. And then you add in the return of Telly Kreskov.
Oh, yeah, the architect behind their 2012 championship.
Exactly. And get this, she's talking about bringing in 10 new free agents.
10?
10. A complete roster overhaul.
Wow, that's a statement for sure.
It definitely shows they mean business. But how does Coach White plan to blend all this new talent with the players they already have and create a winning culture?
Well, from everything I've read, White's a big believer in fast-paced, offense-first basketball.
Okay.
Aggressive, taking risks, scoring in transition, that sort of thing.
Sounds like a pretty big change from how the Fevers have played recently.
It is. And that's what makes this potential backcourt pairing of Kelsey Mitchell and Caitlin Clark so exciting.
You're talking about the possible free agent signing.
Yep, exactly.
I mean, Mitchell's already a proven scorer, over 19 points a game last season. What makes her such an offensive threat?
She's got this, like, old school game, excels in isolation, can create her own shot against pretty much anyone.
So she's like
Like a modern-day Allen Iverson.
oh, wow, with a killer crossover.
And a knack for drawing fouls. Yep.
I can see it. And how would Clark fit in with that style? She's obviously an amazing playmaker, but would that work with Mitchell's more isolation-heavy game?
Clark's vision and passing would be perfect in a fast-paced system like Wade's. Imagine her pushing the ball up the court, finding Mitchell for open shots, threading those no-look passes to cutters.
But wouldn't they, I don't know, maybe step on each other's toes a bit? Would Clark have to adjust her game?
One article described their potential synergy as like a shared language on the court. They just seem to understand each other's movements and anticipate plays before they happen.
Interesting.
Of course, there's always an adjustment period when you bring in players with strong personality.
Oh, for sure.
But the potential with these two, it's undeniable.
And it sounds like the Fever are ready to invest big time.
Absolutely. There's talk of Mitchell getting a supermax contract.
The highest possible salary.
Basically, yeah. It's designed to keep star players with their teams, but it eats up a big chunk of the salary cap.
So that limits their flexibility to sign other big-name free agents.
Exactly. It adds another layer of complexity to this whole roster puzzle.
For sure. Now, shifting to the front court, they're reportedly going after Nika Ogwumike.
9-time All-Star, former league MVP. She's a dominant force.
And pairing her with Aaliyah Boston.
Could be huge. Not just for Boston's development, but for the entire team.
I get why they'd want Ogwumike. But what about her impact beyond the stats?
Ogwumike is a leader, a mentor. Having her in the locker room would be invaluable for a young player like Boston. It's not just about scoring points, it's about learning the nuances of the game from a veteran.
So we've got Ogwumike as the mentor, Mitchell and Clark as the dynamic duo.
And then there's the wild card Satu Sabali.
Oh yeah, Sabali. Versatile forward, can score, rebound, create for her teammates.
Last season, she averaged nearly 18 points, over 6 rebounds, 5 assists per game.
Wow. She sounds like
A true all-around talent.
But she's a restricted free agent, right?
Yep, which means her current team, the Dallas Wings, can match any offer the Fever make.
So to get her, the Fever might have to offer a really attractive contract.
And the Wings could still decide to keep her.
That sounds tricky.
It is. But imagine if they pull it off. Clark dishing no-look passes to Sabali, cutting to the basket.
The Fever fans would go wild.
They're already going wild on social media, actually. Plus, Sabali's been liking comments, engaging with posts about joining the team.
Adding fuel to the fire. And to top it all off, they're also looking at Natasha Howard for defense.
3-time WNBA champ, former Defensive Player of the Year.
Seriously.
And she's more than just a defensive stopper. Last season, she averaged 17.6 points, 6.7 rebounds, over a steal and a block per game.
Wow, those are some serious stats.
Plus, she brings leadership, experience, that winning mentality.
So let me get this straight. We've got Mitchell, Clark, and Sabali for scoring, Ogwumike and Howard for veteran leadership and defense. and a rising star in Boston who's ready to break out.
Starting to sound like a championship contender, right?
It does, but there's one big question looming. Can the Fever actually afford all these players?
That's the million-dollar question. And that's exactly what we're going to dig into next.
Stay with us as we explore the financial side of the Fever's ambitious plan.
Yeah, the Fever's front office, they've got their work cut out for them with this salary cap situation. Can take some serious maneuvering to make all these signings work.
Let's break it down. We know Mitchell's probably getting that Supermax deal. And if they manage to snag Mike, Sabley, and Howard, that's 4 potential max-level contracts.
Right.
So how much wiggle room does that leave them under the cap?
Honestly, not a whole lot. One article I read suggested they might have to get creative with contract structuring, like front-loaded contracts, where a player earns more in the early years of the deal.
So they'd be banking on future cap increases to make things work. That seems pretty risky, doesn't it?
It definitely is. There's no guarantee the cap will go up enough. And if it doesn't, the Fever could be in a tough spot financially.
What about the players already on the roster? Would they have to let go of some veterans to make room for all these new stars?
Yeah, almost certainly. There's been talk about Odyssey Sims and Erica Wheeler potentially leaving, both solid contributors, but with pretty hefty salaries.
Sounds like the Fever's really going all in on this championship dream, prioritizing that over short-term roster depth.
That's pretty much it, yeah.
Yeah.
They're betting that this group of superstars, if they can get them, will be enough to win a title.
Makes sense, but there's always a risk with sacrificing depth. What happens if there are injuries or something unexpected comes up?
That's the gamble for sure.
And even if they assemble this dream team, how does Coach White handle all those big personalities? Find playing time for everyone.
That's where her coaching skills will really be tested. She'll have to be clear about the hierarchy, communicate well, make sure every player understands their role and buys into the team concept.
I imagine there could be some tension, especially with players used to being the main scorer on their old team.
Oh, there will be bumps along the way, that's for sure. But the great coaches, they find a way to make that competitive spirit work for them. They create an environment where players push each other, but also understand that individual success has to contribute to team success.
Sounds like Coach White's leadership is going to be just as important as the talent on the court.
100%, yeah. Strategist, motivator, diplomat.
She'll need to be everything. But let's talk about how these new players would actually fit together on the court. We talked about Mitchell and Clark as a backcourt duo. Where would someone like Sabley fit in?
Sabley, she's just so versatile. Can play multiple positions, score inside and out, create for her teammates.
So she's like a Swiss Army knife.
Exactly. Adapts to different lineups and situations. Coach White could play her at small forward with Mike in Boston, a supersized front court, or at power forward in a smaller, faster lineup.
Lots of options on offense there.
And don't forget about defense, with Natasha Howard protecting the paint. The Fever could have a truly dominant defense.
I'm already picturing it. Howard blocking shots, grabbing rebounds, Mitchell and Clark shutting down the perimeter.
It's a powerful combination, at least on paper.
True, potential doesn't always equal results.
Yeah, you never know for sure how things will play out.
Even with all the right pieces, there's no guarantee they'll gel as a team.
Chemistry is a tricky thing.
And there are always those external factors, injuries, unexpected slumps, other teams stepping up their game.
Right. The WNBA's competitive building a champion is a long and complicated process.
So we've talked potential, risks, financial hurdles. But what about the human element? How are the Fever fans reacting to this massive roster shakeup?
Oh, they're buzzing. I was on social media the other day, saw tons of posts from Fever fans excited about the signings, dreaming up lineups.
Understandable. After a few tough seasons, they finally have something to be excited about.
It really is. Reminds us that sports are more than just games. It's about hopes and dreams, community, belonging. For Fever fans, this offseason is a fresh start, a belief that their team can finally contend.
Definitely a good time to be a Fever fan. But let's not get carried away with the hype. What does this ambitious plan mean for the Fever's future, long term? What are the downsides of going all in on a star-studded roster? What if it doesn't work out? It's a huge gamble, right? Like, on the one hand, a potential dynasty, a team that could dominate for years. But if it flops, they could be stuck with this top-heavy roster and no flexibility to change things.
Exactly. If this grand experiment doesn't lead to a championship, the Fever might be in a tough spot, having to maybe trade away some of their younger players or give up future draft picks just to free up cap space.
It's tough decisions.
Yeah, it's definitely a risk, no doubt about it.
And what about the impact on the team culture itself? Bringing in so many big names at once, could that mess with the chemistry they've already built?
It's a valid concern for sure. You can have all the talent in the world, but if those players don't mesh well together as a team, it won't matter.
It's such a delicate balance. Makes you wonder if there's a better way, a more balanced approach to building a contender. Maybe a mix of stars and young players instead of going all in on big names.
There are definitely different schools of thought when it comes to building a roster. Some teams focus on the draft, others go after those big free agents.
Like choosing between slow and steady or a roller coaster.
Exactly. And the Fever, they seem to be on that roller coaster. Going to be interesting to see where it takes them.
Speaking of roller coasters, what do you think the WNBA landscape looks like if the Fever actually pull this off? Do they instantly become the team to beat?
They'd definitely be up there among the favorites. But the WNBA is competitive. There are other teams with championship dreams too.
Like the Las Vegas Aces with Aja Wilson leading the way.
Right.
Or the Washington Mystics. Elena Del Don's still a force to be reckoned with.
And don't forget the defending champs.
This is a place where
the New York
players can
Liberty,
come and get better
Sabrina Ionescu
and be
Brianna
surrounded
Stewart.
by an
So
organization
even with a
that
star-studded
supports
roster,
you,
the Fever
they're going to have everything
wouldn't
they need
have
to
an
be
easy
successful.
path to a
Stephanie White
championship.
just dropped
Not
the
at all.
bombshell on the
It
whole
would be a
Fever squad.
battle
And let me
every
tell
step of the
you,
way.
This is
This
the
has
kind
been
of
such a
shakeup
great
you've been
deep
dreaming
dive.
of.
We've covered
White is
everything
here
from
to level
potential
up this team
signings
with
and coaching
players who are
styles
fiercely
to
loyal
salary
and
cap
truly
issues and
dedicated
the
to
overall
Fever's cause.
WNBA landscape.
These are the game changers
What stands
who
out
know
to
the
you
true
most from
meaning
all
of
this?
sportsmanship.
Honestly,
and are
what I
ready to
find
fight
most
for a
impressive is
championship.
the Fever's
fate of
absolute
Caitlin Clark's
dedication
team
to building a
is about to
championship
be
team.
revolutionized.
They're not afraid
And
to take
fans
risks,
better get ready
make
for an
bold moves,
unforgettable
shake
season.
things up.
It's refreshing, right? After struggling for so long, they're finally showing that hunger to compete at the highest level.
Seriously,
And they're doing
bless
it in a
whoever
way
had
that's
the
got
genius
everyone
idea to
talking.
make White the head coach.
Whether you love it or
because
hate it,
without her,
you can't deny
we'd still
that the
be stuck
Fevers are
with
making
Christy
things
Sides
interesting.
watching
And
the
that's
team
what makes
crumble to
sports so
pieces.
great, right?
White's
The
vision,
unpredictable
it's
storylines,
electrifying,
the
it's
daring
strategic,
moves,
and
the
it's about to
potential for
transform the
greatness.
Fever into
Absolutely.
a powerhouse.
The
You're not
Fever's
ready for
story
what's
is just
coming.
beginning, though.
That's the past
This
tense, right?
offseason
She's
is just
referencing
the
the
first
past
chapter
there.
in what
And
could
just when
be
you think the
a
excitement
really
couldn't
historic
get
journey.
any higher,
It's going to be a wild
Kelly Koff
ride.
comes
For the
strolling
players,
back
the
onto
coaches, the
scene.
fans,
If you
and for
don't
us
know,
analysts
Koff
trying
is
to
the
make sense
ultimate
of it all.
mastermind.
Couldn't ask
the
for
legend
anything
who
more
led the
exciting.
Fever to their
Before
only
we wrap things
WNBA
up, I gotta
championship
ask,
back in
if you were the
2012.
Fever's GM,
She's back
what
with a
move
vengeance,
would you make
and this time
to
she's
build
not
a
thinking
championship
small.
team?
No minor
That's
tweaks,
a
no
tough
soft
one.
moves. Koff's got a plan
So
so
many
ambitious
possibilities.
it's
You know what?
borderline
Honestly,
reckless,
I think I'd do
signing 10
exactly what they're
game-changing
doing. Go
free
for it all.
agents.
Love it.
10.
It's all or
Let
nothing
that
for the
sink
Fever
in.
this year.
This is
And
a
to our
full-scale
listeners, we want to
overhaul,
keep this
a
conversation
complete
going.
rebranding of the
Head over to
Fever's
social
future.
media, share
The
your
message is
thoughts
crystal
using the
clear.
hashtag
Mediocrity
Fever
isn't an
Dynasty.
option. They're coming
What
for
do you think of the
everything.
Fever's
And I
moves?
think
Can they pull it
oftentimes
off?
people forget that
Who would you target
I'm a
in
great
free
person before a
agency?
basketball player.
Let's hear your
so for me
predictions
as
for
a big
this
sister,
season.
I'm just
Gonna
like,
be one for the
I'm gonna
books,
take the
that's for
first
sure.
step
Until
first
next time,
to just let her know
keep
like
diving
we
deep.
here, we